Hello, everyone. This is David, and tonight's movie that we watched is the 1989 film Leviathan. Now, Leviathan is an interesting movie for a couple of reasons. The first being it was part of I don't want to say series because that's not the correct term, but in 1989, James Cameron was releasing the movie The Abyss. Now, you probably know who James Cameron is, as he's made some of the highest grossing movies of all time. uh, that being Titanic and Avatar. But this was one of his other works that is still very good, but a lot of people don't know him as well. I mean, Terminator 2, Titanic, and Avatar are the big ones that everyone knows him for. Also, the movie Aliens, another one I think, I'm pretty sure he did Aliens, that everyone knows him for. But here you go with The Abyss. It's funny, I'm talking about more about The Abyss now. All right, so you got The Abyss coming out, and The Abyss was an interesting movie. I'm not gonna go too far off in that, but no one was really sure what it was about. They knew that aliens were involved, but they didn't know if it was a horror movie, if it was just a science fiction movie, what was going on. So around that time, a bunch of other studios tried to cash in on this sort of deep sea ocean craze, and of that, two movies that I'm aware of. I'm sure there are probably others out there, but only two that I'm aware of came out the same year, um, and those being the Leviathan and Deep Star Six. Deep Star Six we might talk about at some point, but it's always interesting to hear the kind of stories that happened around the movie as it was coming out and whatnot. Now, the issue with this is both Leviathan and Deep Star Six were not terribly successful as like in the box office. Um, they're okay movies. This one is a lot more fun, I think, than Deep Star Six. But even so, it really boils down to basically being it's Alien, but it's at the bottom of the ocean. So nothing we haven't really seen before. Although the monster and creature effects are quite good in this film, and the characters in it are a lot of fun too. It does really catch that alien vibe with a bunch of interesting people stuck together in this space. In this case, they're not on a spaceship, they're at the bottom of the ocean. So let's talk about the creature that's in this film. It's never really given a name. It isn't Leviathan. Leviathan is actually the name of a ship that the characters from this deep sea mining crew find, and on it, this one guy, Six Pack, finds a chest, and inside the chest is a bunch of stuff from the captain's like personal effects, his log, some vodka, several other things. Suffice it to say, what the creature is in this film is a mutating creature, if you will. It is a genetically engineered or uh, genetically manipulated um, substance that changes you into a fish person, basically. But fish person isn't exactly accurate because you're not just a fish. There's like tentacles and like all sorts of weirdness. And there's a little bit of John Carpenter's The Thing in this too. If you cut off a part of the creature, it grows into a whole new creature, and it can absorb any of the flesh that it has corrupted and spread its corruption to other people. Very kind of The Thing-ish. It doesn't really have a lot of other powers, however. It can regenerate quickly, and it's obviously stronger than people, can survive in water and whatnot. But it's doesn't have any it doesn't have acid for blood or any psychic abilities that I'm aware of, um, other than phenomenal regeneration, and it's kind of sneaky and feeds on blood and whatnot. So that's about all there is to say about the creature. If you're curious about the effects, you can either look it up or watch the movie yourself. They're decent for this time in age. No CGI. It's all practical as far as I'm aware. There might be some, stop motion in there. I don't really remember off the top of my head if there was any. I don't think there was, but that stuff can always be in there. But anyway, so let's get to the story. So the idea is that it's in the near future. I don't remember if we were given a date, but it's in the near future, and people are mining the bottom of the ocean. Not really that unrealistic. And they're working for this place or this company called the Trioceanic Corp. And Becky is this geologist that's been sent down there to maintain what they call the shack, which is basically the command and control of the station, while everyone else is out deep sea mining, effectively. Not really given how deep they are, just that they're at the bottom of the ocean somewhere. That being said, there were some incidents with Jesus's thing. The doctor should have been on the deck. He wasn't. Shenanigans ensue. There's like a whole bunch of corporate stuff happening. Becky calls for everybody. They criticize him because he's not one of the crew, really. He's kind of like their commander, even though he's not really a commander type. He's a geologist. So there's a lot of tension between all the different characters. A lot of them, they're getting ready to go. They've got like 3 days left. And Becky's like, "Look, we got some stuff to do. If you guys want to do it, I'll give you the next day off." And he's like, everyone's like, "Okay." So there's a lot of maintenance and whatnot they had to do. So they're all doing that. And what is it? Six Pack and this other woman, I forget her name, the main character girl. There's 2 women in this movie, but one's the main character girl and one's not main character girl and dies, unsurprisingly. They're out, and Six Pack falls off like this cliff and finds the Leviathan, finds the treasure chest, and they start doing research on it. Becky and Doc start looking into this, and allegedly the Leviathan is still in service in the Baltic Sea, which is nowhere near where they are. It just doesn't make sense. Like, they have some interesting and anomalous images that they saw in the ship itself, with some skeletons that they found that don't make sense. A lot of interesting stuff. They find Six Pack brought back a chest that was filled with a bunch of stuff, some tapes and whatnot that they watch. Don't really reveal too much, but Six Pack wants the alcohol because they're not allowed to have alcohol on the ship, which for obvious reasons kind of makes sense. But he smuggles out a flask that was in there. They later try to sneak in, steal the alcohol from Becky, who put it in lockdown, but he switched it out for water. Turns out Six Pack goes back to his bunk, basically, and the other woman, I forget her name too, tells him that she wants some of his vodka, which they both drink. Six Pack becomes sick. Eventually he dies. The doc tries to figure out what's going on because he hasn't seen stuff like this before. Doesn't tell everyone initially that Six Pack is dead. And you get some interesting scenes with Six Pack being basically in the back room of the medical bay, and some of the characters talk to him while they think he's like kind of rolling around under the covers, but he's really dead, and that's the parts of the monster generating that are writhing under it, which I thought was kind of interesting. Later on, the chick that also drank the stuff found out that Six Pack had died of the infection and didn't want to die like that because he looked pretty bad. So she committed suicide, cutting her own wrists. They report into the company. The company doesn't want to extract them because they say it'll look bad on his record to Becky. And there's a storm rolling in, allegedly. So they're not having it. They're like, we need to get the fuck out because this is getting bad. And needless to say, there's something going wrong with the bodies. They're gonna throw the bodies basically out the airlock for all intents and purposes. And the bodies start writhing around. They think some of the guys don't know that they're what exactly had happened, so they think they're alive. They open them up. Well, a clawed hand reaches out and claws some of the guys, or one of the guys, and they all freak out. They throw it out the airlock. Its arm, or its leg, I don't remember which, it comes through the airlock as it's sealing shut, gets cut off, falls underneath, and regenerates into another creature. While that's happening, they're kind of examining what's going on and trying to figure it all out. The doc is looking into it, figures out it's genetic manipulation, that this is a genetically engineered like retrovirus effectively that's turning them into fish people. And in the meantime, a lamprey-like monster attacks the blood supply, kills De Jesus, and meanwhile, then it attacks Cobb. Cobb kind of mutates into into a like a thing, for lack of better terms. So now they're running out of people. I believe the Doc gets killed. Um, Doc gets killed. Like basically, like all the characters die. They're kind of hunting it around, trying to see what they do. They decide something gets compromised. The ship's going to blow up. You know, the usual suspects. They get into their suits. They evac after killing the creature. Um, they get to the surface. They get kind of they realize there's no hurricane, and in fact that the company had called that all of them off for a loss because expected them all to be dead, uh, and they published that basically already. When they in fact weren't dead, they just wrote them off. They're like, yeah, we're not going to rescue them. Fuck that. So they get up, and then what is it? Ernie Hudson. I think it's Ernie Hudson. Um, yeah, Ernie Hudson gets killed by a shark, I believe, which is kind of funny. Or does he get killed by the monster? The monster shows back up, suffice to say, because there's always a gotcha moment. The monster shows back up. Sixpack throws like a flare into its mouth, and that kills it somehow. Not entirely sure on that one, but sure. Flare caused some serious damage. And it's the original monster, too, the one constructed of Sixpack and the other woman, which I think her name was Bowman, now that I'm thinking about it. Um, and they get rescued, they get brought back, and he punches out the CEO that he had been in communication with. And that's Leviathan. It's a very entertaining movie, certainly. I was always curious about it when I was a kid because the Leviathan is always a creature that interested me, and I figured the Leviathan would be in this movie, but it's not. It's the name of the ship, which is disappointing, but special effects and stuff are still pretty interesting. It's not a terribly scary movie anymore. I mean, Alien did all of this better, obviously, but for an underwater alien knockoff, it's not a bad movie by any means. I definitely suggest checking it out. All the characters in it are pretty likable characters. No one's a real jackass or anything like that. Like in modern horror, everyone's an asshole. All the characters are pretty likable. It's a fun time, so definitely check this one out. I'm gonna give this one a 3.5 out of 5. It's enjoyable, not the best of the genre, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be. It's just a fun ride, and let it go by. All right, folks. Good night.